Hi, hello, and welcome everyone to our second episode of The Push with Nick and KP. I am Nick, joined by KP, of course, and we are here for our first ever reactions video of Royal Rumble 2024. I think general consensus is a bit mixed from what I've seen, um, but what were your overall thoughts of the show, KP?
For the most part, I really, really enjoyed it. Got to be honest, I thought it was a cracking show. Obviously, there was a few ups, a few downs, which we will definitely dive into at some point throughout this video. But yeah, I'm looking forward to discussing everything with yourself today and to hearing what everybody else has to say in regards to this as well. So yeah, looking forward to this one.
All right, without further ado, I guess we'll go ahead and get into the first match of the night, which was the women's Royal Rumble match. We had a good amount of return debuts highlighted here. I think everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I think the four biggest return debuts and Naomi coming back was huge. I think a lot of people were excited by that, and of course, it's in Florida. I believe she's from Orlando, if memory serves me correctly. So that was a good pop. And then we have Jordan Grace, TNA Knockouts champ, kind of continuing that trend of the current TNA Women's Champion coming over in place of Mickey James this year. I was all for that. I'd not seen any of her work before. I mostly just watched WWE, but that was she's an incredible athlete. I would love to see her in WWE one day. And then, of course, we had Jade Cargill making her appearance and debut finally. And what a debut it was. Talk about that a little more as we get in here. And then number 30 being Liv Morgan. I, ecstatic to see her back. I think one could make the case that I don't think the pop was quite what they were looking for. I think general audience, especially with Naomi being there, I think a lot of people, myself included, thought that was going to be the Sasha entrance. Um, and I think that's a great segue over to you, KP. What were your thoughts on the returns and debuts, and what did you think of number 30 entrance, and who are the highlights for you?
I mean, a lot of stuff that you're saying there, I can personally agree with on my end as well. So, I mean, Naomi coming out at number 2 after Natalie's already in the ring, waiting for, to see who number 2 is going to be. I thought that was a fantastic way to get her in. Like, it's right at the start, nice and early. The crowd are pumped. They're already anticipating who the second person is going to be anyway. I think it's a great shout putting her in so early because it just makes for a big moment. And as you said, from Orlando, Florida, literally, the same state as Tampa. So it's fantastic for her, to be back in such a big moment. She had a fantastic Rumble, I thought, as well, lasting, she lasted over 40 minutes. I'm pretty sure Naomi did 45 minutes in the end. Great showing from her from start to finish. Jordan Grace, yeah, I think not enough is said about Jordan and her presence in this match. So she obviously debuted here. First time she's been in a WWE televised match. I thought she did a tremendous job. You could tell that she's obviously so calm and collected with this sort of thing. Like, obviously being on the rope. I think there's a particular moment where Bianca had her hanging on the ropes and she managed to pull herself up, flip herself back into the ring. Bianca was obviously like, "Oh, all right then, okay, you can go here." Fair enough. But yeah, that was a really cool moment. She had some cracking opportunities during the matchup to showcase her talent, and I think she did a tremendous job of doing that. Speaking of which, down the same wavelength, when you talk about people who are coming in from a rival company, from elsewhere, and not really knowing when they're going to actually be put in and how they're gonna do when they're first popped in. Jade Cargill had one of the best debuts for a woman, I think, in WWE history in this Royal Rumble matchup. She was utterly phenomenal. And I'm telling you now, how to make a star, just her eliminating Nia, the way that she did, the way she just handled Nia Jax was absolutely tremendous. I couldn't get enough of Jade from that matchup. The plaudits need to keep coming her way from that because she had a stellar performance in the first outing. So, yeah, really excited to see what the future holds for Jade. She had a tremendous Rumble, lasting until obviously, the very, very end, really, when you think about it. So, yeah, Jade, massively impressed me during this matchup. And then number 30. I mean, I'm not sure about everyone else, but I was literally fingers crossed, sat on my seat, thinking, please not Sasha, please not Sasha, please not Sasha. And it wasn't Sasha. My prayers were answered. We had Liv Morgan instead. I know a lot of people are maybe a little bit mixed about that because perhaps they would have wanted Liv Morgan to come back earlier in the Rumble, have someone massive at number 30, because the number 30 entrant is a gamble. At the end of the day, it is, isn't it? Because the crowd are going to either turn or they're going to be excited and elated. I've seen a lot of backlash for Liv being number 30. Maybe it should have been Sasha. Maybe it should have been AJ Lee. Blah, blah, blah. We don't know the situations. But Liv Morgan's here. She's back. It's the first time she's been in WWE ring in a couple of months. It's great to have her back. And, she's got a large fan base behind her. I'm sure she'll be fine. She won't sort of like take any suffering from being number 30 from the crowd. And I think it was a great time for her to come back in. And yeah, I couldn't really be any more impressed with these returns. They were fantastic, and they all showcased themselves enough, like what they needed to,
Yeah, and I think, as you alluded to, I think you could argue men's or women's, a better debut would be hard to find in the Royal Rumble. Her picking up Nia like that, she already has the look. I think that's what, for those of us like myself that don't watch AEW, you don't know what you're getting, but as from a wrestling, in-ring standpoint, but from just the looks department, she has it. She has that factor. And to bring her in and debut like that, I don't think you could argue anyone else had a better Rumble. I think that is a good segue into our winner of the Rumble here. As most of you probably already know, was Bailey, and what a performance she put on. I think a lot of people kind of predicted this coming, but I didn't see a single unhappy face in the crowd. It very much deserved. Long time coming. At her first Rumble win, I think this has been a long time coming. I think she's the last one to do it. I guess Sasha. No, I don't think Sasha has one, but Becky and Charlotte have. And what Bailey was put through, and carried this company through the COVID era, and kind of been on, a bit under scrutinized here, or over scrutinized, excuse me, with her old damage control story. You can blame that on Vince. I'm sure most people will. But yeah, she's been through it, and in my opinion, one of, if not the best in the women's division right now. So yeah, she deserved this, and this was, you couldn't beat this moment here at the Rumble, in my opinion. What were your thoughts on this, KP?
Obvious take from me incoming, but yeah, you nailed it on the head, to be fair. She absolutely deserves this. There isn't anybody who deserved to win this Women's Royal Rumble than Bailey. After the year that she had last year, putting over Bianca 700 times and all the other members of the women's roster that she did put over, like, she just did the greater good, didn't she? She took one for the team throughout the entirety of the year. And yeah, she's got her flowers now. She's won the Women's Royal Rumble, lasting an impressive 63 minutes in total. She had a stellar performance. So yeah, Bailey here winning the Women's Royal Rumble match. Like you said as well, everybody seemed to be happy about it. Pure elation from the crowd, pure respect, adoration, whatever you want to call it, because she does deserve this moment. She had a cracking Rumble. She was in the mix constantly. Like, you saw her squaring up to here, there, and everyone. And she didn't shy away. She didn't hide away from people. So that was nice to see as well. A lot of time when you get this long-lasting entrance, they tend to have their breaks in between and whatnot, and they'll like sit in the corner for a while. But nah, she seemed to always be involved. And a lot of the time she was close to getting eliminated. My heart was in my mouth. But thankfully, she got the job done in the end. And I thought she had a cracking Royal Rumble. But yeah, on to the road to WrestleMania for Bailey. She won the Royal Rumble. Do we get that match with Io Sky? Or do you actually think she is going to face Rhea Ripley?
Yeah, and you took the next words out of my mouth, because they did mention and maybe this was done to throw people off of the trail. It kind of did me a little bit when she mentioned Rhea, and then obviously that would equal Damage Control having all the gold. And that's kind of why it made me think that they weren't going to have the winner go after Io. They were going to have the winner go after Rhea, and that's kind of why I was thinking maybe it was Becky's time again. But I'm glad they did, and I'm glad they went this way. And honestly, I think the idea of her going after Io, because they've been planting this, they've been telling the story, seems obvious. But I wouldn't be mad at a Bailey Rhea matchup either. Um, I think if that is the route they go, though, that she would probably have to win. And I don't are they going to or would they go that route? And I guess if she didn't win, I guess they can continue to tell that story with Damage Control. But I think I love the idea of Damage Control having all the titles. But I think Io is the obvious answer. But I'm just excited to see her in this position, and we'll see where she goes.
Yeah, 100%. It's a mouth-watering thought, to be fair, when you do think of Bailey against Rhea Ripley, and the fact that we're almost like pushing that to the side because we'd rather Bailey against Io. It says a lot about the current situation for the women's division. Like the top prize at WrestleMania, it's in it's completely two different directions, right? So Bailey could obviously, down the line, things could materialize with Damage Control, which means a little bit of friction. See what happens, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, your alternative up against Rhea Ripley, you're up against Mami, doesn't really get much bigger than Rhea at the moment in terms of women's wrestling in WWE. So yeah, Bailey's either way, she's got a massive decision to make. She'll probably stay a bit patient, I would think, eventually choosing Io Sky once that disarray happens. But it's great to think that the other option is as good as it absolutely definitely is. Yeah, I mean, I was absolutely over the moon with this result. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. It was a great Rumble from start to finish, in all honesty, right? We've mentioned the returns and how good they were. And yeah, I think we've covered basically everything that I had already summarized here anyway. So it's nice to see that we sort of like gone down that route. But I thought the last few stars left in the Rumble as well were pretty star-studded, right? I mean, you had some fantastic people that were in those last few, and also a shout out to the girls from NXT who were called up. You're talking Roxanne Perez, Tiffany Stratton. Thought they did a decent enough job in the Women's Royal Rumble as well. Roxy making a second appearance after being in it last year as well. Yeah, I think the future's bright for women's wrestling. Just want to get your thoughts on Tiffany and Roxanne.
Yeah, we always seem to take the words right from my mouth. One of the biggest points of this Rumble I had was the lack of Hall of Famers coming back. While everyone loves a good return, just didn't need to see. No offense to this person, but I didn't need to see Molly Holly come back for the fifth year in a row. I think this is a great shout to what you were just saying was the state of the women's division, and that unless I'm forgetting one, I don't believe there was one single Hall of Famer. Everyone that was in this Rumble was either current from another brand or an NXT talent. So I love the fact that we didn't have to call some, and again, no offense to that woman or those women, but they just don't add a ton to the story. And I think the fact that we were able to fill the entire Rumble with people that are active and will be for years to come, it's a great feeling. And I love that much more than I have previous years because it felt, at 10 of the entrance or people that aren't going to be here the next day, kind of what's the point? With this, we have plenty of stories to tell. And I think NXT did have a great showing. And I think that at the end there, they kind of showed all the women on the barricade that had been eliminated. And I mean, you could argue that maybe those four people are the next four winners. Like it was, that big of an ending. Um, do feel a little bad for Liv, having been so close 2 years in a row. I think she could maybe get that workhorse Iron Woman role, so to speak, for next year's Rumble. because she has made leaps and bounds compared to where she was when she first started. And then obviously Jade and Tiffany and Roxanne, for that matter, will surely be up here in the mix in years to come.
Yeah, you summed that up pretty nicely there. The talent in the women's division these days is just phenomenal. Like the fact that they didn't have to call up a single past wrestler, a Hall of Famer, whatever you want to call it, alumni. It just speaks the volumes of how vast, well, how in depth this division truly is now, and it shows the quality completely from start to finish. And yeah, you got to give respect to everybody who participated in this matchup because, like you said, they all could have potential futures in the business for years and years and years to come. So they're only going to get better. They're only going to grow. They're only going to learn more things. So yeah, I'm absolutely loving it. I thought this Rumble was truly remarkable. One of the greats. I think it'll be remembered for a long time, and it's an absolute classic. In all honesty, that would like be my way of summing this particular part up. But yeah, I thought it was an all-time great for Royal Rumbles. You know, don't know if we're doing ratings yet, but if I was to rate this one, then I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. I thought it was that good. It was basically perfect.
Yeah, and I can't give it any less, and I'm just going to go ahead and give it a 10 because I don't feel like there was much room for opportunity for improvement. I feel like, maybe, there were a couple people that people wanted in there more than the ones that were there, but as far as execution and how that played out, I don't think you can do much else. But with that being said, we have the second match of the night, which is a surprise to myself, I'm sure, as it was to many. No, not the outcome, but where this took place in the card. We had Roman Reigns, LA Knight, AJ Styles, and of course Randy Orton, and a fatal four-way for the title. And yeah, I don't think any, at least I don't think there were many people that thought the outcome would be different as pictured here. But as for the match itself, there were a couple moments that my heart skipped a beat or two, thinking maybe with the talent that Roman was in the ring with, um, I don't think I don't think you could say it would be a bad outcome to have Roman lose the title. But there were a few moments that I thought that was it. One in particular was Randy, RKOing everyone, and then Roman being the last and getting the cover, and my heart stopped. I said, "Is this it? Is this it?" And then, of course, you have full, shame on me, because how many times have you pulled that on me and us to have Solo pull him out? But here we are. One's to the sky. Roman Reigns wins. But yeah, I thought the match was really good. Predictable outcome or not. You can't deny with those four guys in the ring that it was going to be hard to mess that up. Your predictable interference by the bloodline. Honestly, I was kind of surprised it wasn't more interference. Um, yeah, it kind of felt like maybe there would have been. And no Damian Priest, and we talked about that a lot. No Damian Priest interference, but yeah, Roman headed to WrestleMania with the title, provided I doubt he'll do anything for Elimination Chamber. Um, but yeah, pretty good match. What were your thoughts on this one, KP?
Yeah, I was quite hopeful for this one going into it. I think I said to you on the predictions video that I was really looking forward to it. I thought it'd be a cracker, and yeah, I was excited to see how this one played out in terms of the general sort of like flow to the match. Obviously, like you said, the ending was very expected. Roman retaining isn't exactly a surprise at this point. It's just a matter of how they go down it and who gets involved, and all these sort of variables there. But no, I thought, yeah, like you said, the match was a lot of fun to watch. I thought, it had a pretty good pace to it throughout. Obviously, we are so used to these Roman Reigns matches being one-on-one, so it's like Roman and his opponent will sort of like they'll sort of like warm each other up type thing. So they'll sort of like they'll go from a really slow paced start to then starting to really turn that tempo up towards the latter stages and into the finish. But this was very much different. Obviously, when you got 4 men of the quality that were in the ring, you can't have anything but a quick pace match. Like even from like the start, bits in the middle, the end, it's all going to be chaos all the way through. And I thought they did a fantastic job of keeping us, you know, in the moment at the time, rather than thinking when's the finish, when's it going to happen. It was all very much, oh shit, what's going on now? Like, oh, hell, what's happening now? What's going down next? Like, this is all getting a bit crazy. Oh, look, there's LA Knight. Oh, there's AJ Styles. Like, all those combustible elements came into one. It was a nice blend, I thought. But yeah, no one even shied away. Like, we've seen match in the past where the champion might take like a little bit of a backseat and then will, might make his way back in towards the very end to get the finish. But that didn't really happen here either. Like, even Roman was constantly in and involved, which was, I thought, a really nice touch as well. But I quite liked the finish. I'm not going to lie. The finish was actually pretty good. Like, there was interference, and it was that classic solo pull, the one that we had at Clash of the Castle. It screams that, because literally he was in the hoodie. He revealed it to be himself. Like, no one knew who he was this time. Like, what? Yeah, I thought that because that was, like, towards, like, the middle-ish later stages, rather than right at the very end, I thought that worked in their favor, and it didn't, like, directly lead to the finish. So it was almost done in a way that Roman won the match by himself without any help in terms of the finish. But obviously, yeah, there was that bit in the middle towards the end where Randy had it won. Let's face it, Roman was dead to rights, as we've seen so many times in his matches. But yeah, his Souls Involved was expected. We all knew it was going to happen. Like you said, surprised it wasn't more with Jimmy Uso. Could have been, but it wasn't. But yeah. Either way, though, I mean, it's one of those nice little moments there, like towards the end where all the finishes came to play, and yeah, pretty fun to watch for sure. I got a lot of plaudits for this one. Really, really liked it.
I don't think there's much that we can say at this point that hasn't been said, and I just think we'll see where we go from here. I doubt he'll be on Elimination Chamber. I assume he'll just be awaiting the official decision. I think it's been strongly hinted who will be facing him, but if not completely obvious, we'll wait on that official decision. Even if the outcome is predictable, with the 4 guys that were in the ring, it was a good time, and yeah, I'll give this one a 7.5 out of 10. What would you give this one then, KP?
Pretty close to me, to be fair, just slightly above yours. I went with an 8 out of 10 for this one. Like you said, can't really say anything else that hasn't already been discussed. So yeah, good match, fast paced, and was one that I particularly enjoyed. To be fair, 8 out of 10.
All right, and with that, we will move on then to the U.S. title match between Kevin Owens and Logan Paul. I had high hopes for this one, and I don't really think it disappointed. I think the ending in particular was very creative, very new, where I thought they were going with it. And, the guy from the crowd comes in. I don't personally know who that is, maybe an agent of his. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, clearly there to intervene and give him the brass knuckles. I thought to myself, surely we're not going to go this route again. Um, but then he kind of got stopped by the referee, and then um, we have Theory come in, so that, and then eventually that pass it off to Logan, and then somehow intercepted by Kevin Owens. And I had me fooled. I thought, okay, he, we're gonna have Logan lose his title just how he wanted. And I love the story, and had him pinned, and then the ref sees the brass knuckles and then calls for a DQ. Um, what a wave of emotions there, right? As far as thinking one way and then going back another, then going back again. That was a great. I love the ending. The match itself was great, as I think most of us kind of expected it to be with these two in the ring. but yeah, this was a fun watch. What were your thoughts on this one, KP?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you really for like all of it. So, I mean, yeah, the plaudits for this one are quite high for me. Like, we did have a lot of hope for an optimism going into it, which I think it definitely does. It definitely fulfilled that expectation as well. The screw finish was, as you alluded to and mentioned, it was brilliant. Like, I was fooled as well. I thought it was Kevin Owens genuinely getting the win via those brass knuckles, and I thought it was going to come back to bite Logan on on the ass. But yeah, I was fooled. Referee obviously spotted them, and fair play. Like, I liked it. I liked the fact that I was genuinely fooled by a finish. We don't see a lot of that nowadays. Obviously, when a finish is going to be, you expect it, and there's 1, 2, 3 done, and then the ref was like, "Oh, hello, what's that? This one's out. This one's done." So I was like, "Oh, you know what? Fair enough. I quite liked it." So yeah, that was cool. Obviously, I would have preferred Kevin Owens to win, but the creative ending, I can't really say enough good things about that one. So yeah, like you were mentioning earlier. But yeah, to be fair, with the rest of the matchup, obviously with Theory and Waller coming in, that was, that sort of like just continues Kevin's rivalry with them, his feud going on with those guys as well, because they're not quite done yet. But yeah, I mean, the match itself was fun, full of nice spots throughout. I thought the two complemented each other really, really nicely. And yeah, Logan retaining the way that he did makes me think that this one isn't quite over yet either. I think they're probably going to continue from here on. Possibly Kevin getting a rematch, maybe Elimination Chamber, or I don't know, sometime around then. I think Logan's basically only a PLE guy, isn't he? So I don't think it's going to be on like a SmackDown or whatever. But yeah, I think this is done. I think we'll get KO against Logan Paul 2 at some point, and I'm sure they'll try and up the ante from this first match, which is quite an impressive one as it is.
Yeah, and I think typically when you have a DQ finish, especially at a pay-per-view, you tend to get a pretty ruckus reaction from the crowd, um, you boos, etc. But I didn't really hear that, here. And I think because it was kind of such a back and forth ending, and yeah, I would love to see Logan at the weekly shows, but I think that's kind of why they intervened with Theory and Grayson Waller to kind of give him something to do in the meantime. I guess that's how we'll continue the story with the. But that being said, and I think we alluded to this on the predictions video. There isn't provided that is the route they're going down. There isn't like you don't have a distraction this time. You're not going to put, assuming you're going down the KO Logan Paul route again, you're not going to have another tournament this time to kind of distract from the fact that he's not there. So I think if that is the route they're going to go, I think Logan needs to make an appearance or two in between the next bout, because it's gonna be a lot more obvious that he's not there. So if that is the route they're going to go and he's not going to make any more appearances, I'd like to think that KO will take it on the next round, just to have a full-time champ there for Mania. At least that's my predicted outcome, and wishful thinking, perhaps we'll see. But yeah, it was a good match. And I like the ending, and as you said, for as long as we've been watching the product, it is hard to surprise, and that one did. And yeah, I think I give this one an 8 out of 10. Nothing crazy, but it was a fun match, and it's something new. What about you, KP? What would you give this one?
Again, very similar grades from myself. I went with a 7.5 out of 10, so just shy of the fatal four that we just sort of covered a moment ago. But yeah, I mean, you've basically gone over everything that I would agree with. So yeah, it was a good match. I like these two in the ring with each other. I think they work well together. Obviously, we've seen Logan Paul in his debut when he came over into WWE at WrestleMania, getting a stunner by Kevin Owens, and it's sort of like gone on to this point right here. It seems like a very full circle moment. So yeah, I'm sure this isn't over. Like you said, if he can be a bit more commonly appearing on these weekly shows, that'll be fantastic. It might be asking a lot, I don't know, but it's worth a shout. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, making the title more relevant, sticking around a bit more often, appearing every so often rather than here and there. that's the goal, that's the plan, that's the improvement going forward for these two. Fingers crossed, Logan is able to do that.
All right, and then so onwards and upwards here. Moving on to the main event of the night, the men's Royal Rumble. I think general consensus is that this one wasn't as good as the women's. And I think one of the biggest reasons for that was the lack of returns and or debuts. But not to say this was a bad match by any means. At least I didn't think so. There were a lot of fun moments, and yeah, just I think the lack of surprises and is what kind of ultimately cost us one, and you could argue a predictable outcome as well, especially fresh off the fact that we just got it last year. Um, but yeah, the Jimmy J was I thought a great start um, to the match, and I think they could have maybe done even a little more with them. But it was a great start and a way to start it. And then the return of Andrade, I know I was uh, shown off the fact that I would be extremely excited for that one, and I was. I don't think a lot of, even though I don't know how easy it was to see the Titantron from where you were sitting at Tropicana, um, but I don't think a lot of people knew who it was with the mask on, because I felt like the pop was a little bigger once he took his mask off and everyone realized that's who it was. But yeah, love that return. And then Braun Breaker, I think there was a lot of talk about him taking Brock's place, and it was a last minute adjustment for whatever you take out of that. If you believe the dirt sheets or not, it makes sense for kind of the role he played, and the opportunity to show off that NXT talent again. One of the brightest stars for this match. And then yeah, you have CM Punk and making his debut. I think is probably the loudest pop for the Royal Rumble. I think. Um, but yeah, what were the highlights for you, and who stood out most for you? We don't have a lot of returns or debuts to talk about, but what were your thoughts on this one, KP?
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to differ with our views regarding this one. And I'm not going to be pessimistic going into this because I'm going to take a different approach. I'm going to try and discuss all of the good things I thought about this Royal Rumble. And I think there were a few of them. So, like you said, starting with Jimmy and Jay, I thought was absolutely fantastic. I thought that set the tone really nicely. You had that animosity between the two of them. Obviously, they've got the history, they've got the past, they got the story between the two of them. So I thought that, those two starting was a real nice way to get things flowing, and it kicked it off in a nice manner. So, Jimmy against Jay, that's quite awesome. That's quite iconic. It seemed like a pretty badass moment to me. Yeah, Royal Rumble started off very, very well. Moments later, Andrade coming in, I thought, oh, here we go. Yeah, starting off the returns early. Let's go. Okay, fingers crossed we get a few more. It didn't really work out that way, did it? But yeah, I mean, Andrade coming back in was awesome. I'm happy for him. Obviously, with Charlotte being in WWE and Andrade clearly not happy over in other places, I think it's a smart call for him to come back. I think under Triple H, he's going to do pretty well for himself. We saw him do well in NXT. So it seems like a smart, logical move for him to make here, to be fair. I think throughout the Royal Rumble, there were some really cool moments still. The debut of Braun Breaker in the Royal Rumble match, I thought was freaking epic. I thought he was an absolute beast. And I know you mentioned about the Brock Lesnar situation. I've heard similar things. Apparently, it was exactly what Lesnar was meant to do when he came in. I personally think that this is the much better route to have gone down. If you were to give me an option between Braun Breaker and Brock Lesnar, 10 times out of 10, I'm taking Braun Breaker instead. I'm not going to choose Lesnar because why would I? Braun Breaker is literally a guy built to be a top talent in WWE on the main roster, and he's going to be at some point. Whether this is the start of his main roster career, obviously, is yet to be seen. He said that it is, but obviously, you never know what to truly believe until it actually is on your screen and you're watching it. But yeah, I mean, I think a big shout out has to be said to R-Truth because the guy never fails to make me laugh. He's always involved in new, fresh comedic moments, and I can say now I've seen a hot tag in a Royal Rumble match. That is not something I expected to see ever, and it was amazing. Dom sold it so well. Like, the whole moment was just fantastic. Dom played his part in it. The crowd were electric for that particular point. And R-Truth going for the John Cena classic combination, with the shoulder tackles into the 5-knuckle shuffle. I thought it was a really awesome moment, and I absolutely loved it. I was cracking up, I was creased, and it was just a hilarious little bit of the Rumble. Going back to like other serious situations, JB and the Iron Man, I thought was a great selection. He lasted the longest in the Rumble. I think he lasted roughly around 50 minutes or so. Correct me if I'm wrong, please, people in the chat, in the comments. I'd love to hear what he actually lasted. I think it was around 50 minutes. But yeah, I mean, you did have some other returns as well. You did have Omos coming back. Not that we overly care about Omos, but he was a return technically. He's been off TV for a long time. Pat McAfee's involvement was, I thought, just a strange one. Like, I'm not sure what the thought process there was. He was on commentary for the whole event. Sick, awesome. Let's get him on. I love Cole and McAfee together. But when his music hit, I was like, oh, okay, McAfee's gonna try the classic commentator in the Rumble thing. Okay, we've seen that a few times over the years. But that was all a very weird moment. He didn't really do anything. He eliminated himself, and it was a bit of an odd moment. Sami coming in at number 30, massive for me personally. I'm a huge Sami Zayn fan. I thought that was fantastic. Great to see him back in the ring again. Anything that I say from here on out will be a negative, and it does include Sami Zayn. So I'm going to hold off on that for the moment, because I'd like to go through the positives first. So if you do have anything else to say on that front, let's go from there.
Yeah, and I didn't, I don't want to come across as pessimistic either. Because as you alluded to, there were good moments. The R-Truth moment was hilarious. I don't know how that man continues to make us laugh in seemingly new ways each time, but he does, and it doesn't miss. But yeah, and yeah, okay. So that was Braun Baker's debut. Then what a hell of a debut it was for him. It does confuse me a bit because of how they brought him up on main before. And they kind of go back and forth, and they've done that with other superstars as well. So it kind of confuses me if that is his debut. But I guess since that is his Royal Rumble debut, you'd like to think that maybe that this would be his official call up to main for good. So I guess we'll see where they go with that. But yeah, it's like the end was fun as well. The final four, I don't remember exactly what I said in the predictions video, but I think it might have been the exact right answer with Punk and Rhodes, McIntyre and Gunther. And then that coming down to CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, I think 90% of the world probably would have called that one. But here we are. I still enjoyed the Rumble. It was a good match, and I just don't think it'll be one that I remember 10 years down the road. I don't think there just weren't a ton of factors that were either surprising, or just that, made us stand out. And so that's kind of why it, at least from my point of view, has more pessimistic things and downsides than it had upsides. And I don't want to take all of the talking points, but with the ending being with CM Punk and Cody, I think extremely predictable. And although personally, I will take Cody over CM Punk, but neither of those were going to shock the world by any means. And I think a lot of people have said this already, but and I'm not the biggest CM Punk fan. I honestly don't get the hype around him, but he didn't look that good here, just to be honest. Physically, just appeared pretty gassed, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, Cody winning, I like it, and I know I'm in the very, very, very big minority. I like the idea of him being able to finish the story this time. Do I think they could have done it the first time? Yes. And do I think it's going to be received poorly because it's the second time we're being told the same story? Yeah, I think it is. It's gonna be tiresome. I think a lot of people were already bored of it, and now they're realizing we're gonna get another few months of it. So yeah, they'll have to do something different. But yeah, what were your downsides here, KP?
So yeah, I am gonna like try and make this seem not so doom and gloom. So I think when it comes to the down points, I would have liked another surprise entrant in the Rumble, just to sort of like shake things up. Like, say we had the returns, which is kind of cool, but I think logically, when you think about it, it probably would have been expected by a few people. I think Omos's name was mentioned in around there, and Sammy was clear as day that he was going to be in it right at some point. Andrade was that solo sort of big shock, and that was really awesome to see. But then, yeah, I think with Sammy coming back the way he did, and I was going to talk about Sammy at some point, I really thought that the whole point for Sammy coming back into this Rumble match was that he was going to stick it to the guy who took him out. So when you think about how things have played out, Drew had obviously had a match with Sammy in December. In December? Yeah, in December. And it got to a point where, you know, Drew attacked him so badly afterwards that he put Sammy on the shelf. We haven't seen him since on a TV capacity. He's been at house shows, but obviously when you talk about the TV thing, it's like a different wall, isn't it? So, yeah, I think Sammy coming back here, it would have made way more sense. This is how the sequence went. So it went Damian Priest got eliminated by Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn was then straight away, immediately eliminated by Drew McIntyre. I don't know why they went down that route. I think it would have made a lot more sense to have had Damian Priest get eliminated by Drew, and then Sammy immediately eliminate Drew McIntyre if he's feeling a little bit cocky and confident, because Drew and Damian have had the beef as of recent weeks, right? Over the contract, over the attempted cash in, over costing Drew the opportunity of the world title. So Drew and Damian have the beef. So like if Drew had eliminated Damian, Drew's going to be all like, oh, there you go. Got ya. Finally, some redemption. And then, whilst he's caught up in the moment, Sammy flips him over and goes, you forgot about me. I'm back. This is, you know, this is a message to say that we're not done here. I'm ready to start things back up again. But to have Sammy come back in at number 30, where, to be fair, people were probably expecting someone else, and the crowd were good. I'm not going to say the crowd were bad for Sammy, right? They showed him some love. They were singing his theme. I didn't think that the crowd gave him a bad reaction, but I think he's going to get a bit of bad rep from this because his number 30 entrance was quite, I don't know, it was a little bit flat. He didn't last that long. He was in there for, a couple of minutes, I think, maybe? And he was gone. Like, I don't know. Like, it didn't seem quite right with me. That sort of, I think they missed the opportunity there. So that is like a completely other story. And then we talk about this that we're looking on the screen right here, right now. It wasn't the right call. I said that from the very, very start. But that didn't mean that I thought Cody was the right call. We saw this last year, as obviously you said a moment ago. It's literally take two. It's WrestleMania 39's build up, and we're back at it again, except for this time Cody didn't start at 30, he started at 15. So he actually did a little bit of groundwork in the Rumble. But like, I don't care. I just genuinely don't care anymore. Like, I've tried so hard to like Cody, right? I've tried giving him a fair shot. But the more they try and shove him down our throats, the more they try and make us like him, I just hate him even more. Like, I don't know if I'm missing something here. Yeah, he's got the look, he's got the talent, he's got the charisma, he's got the talent. Like, he's good in the ring. Like, he's got everything it needs. But like, I could literally go on for ages about Cody, and I'm not going to. I just don't agree with the result. I think it could have been someone else, and I think we could have gone down a different route with someone else challenging Roman. I think Cody could have worked his way into a different challenge at some point, and it would have been fine. He could have found another way of getting into the match. I don't know. I don't think 2 in a row was necessary. I really, really do not. That's all I'm going to say for the time being, because this genuinely, this is the short version. I could go a lot longer, but yeah, didn't care for the winner, didn't care for the ending. Women's Rumble was clear. It's not even close.
Yeah, I think we're both on the same page there on your last point. I think, and I'm kind of surprised that WWE didn't take that route, knowing that surely this particular outcome wasn't going to be extremely popular. Um, I'm surprised they didn't go with Bailey winning, and maybe because that's technically because she's a heel. I didn't want to end with the heel winning. Maybe that's their thought process. I'm not sure. Um, but yeah, I don't have a ton of beef against Cody. Um, it's just the fact that they just did this last year. The once in a lifetime part two kind of take, you know. Um, but yeah, I don't have a ton of beef with the outcome as far as it being Cody. I think he is I think he is a very special talent, and I think I think he has all the things to be the guy to take the title from Roman. I think you could also argue the point that does he need to be? How much does it elevate him to beat Roman? Obviously, it's a big deal, but does he need it to become that guy? Because I feel like he already is. I feel like he already is based on where he was and how far he's come. I feel like he's already that guy. So I don't know if he needs the win to be. That's kind of in the reign of Roman Reigns. I always thought the guy that would beat him would be someone that could just elevate their career to a new status, new heights. Don't feel like that's the case with Cody. I feel like it'll elevate him, obviously, because he'll always have that title of the guy who beat Roman. But I feel like there are other people that could be better served and really help elevate their career by taking the title from him. Um, but yeah, we could probably make a whole video on the ending and what we would have done, fantasy book and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think those are the two main stories from this match: Cody winning again, and then just the lack of surprises. And you mentioned it earlier about Pat McAfee. I love Pat McAfee. I think he's great as a commentator. I don't think he needs to be in the ring, honestly. That could have been a surprise entrant instead. Um, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it just felt a bit lackluster. And I think I already mentioned this. I won't remember this in a few years. Other than Cody won again for the second time. That'll be one that's mentioned. That stat will be one that's mentioned for quite a while and possibly forever, because being in the same conversation as Stone Cold, Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels, having won it back to back years, you can't take that away from them, regardless of what happens at WrestleMania. Um, but yeah, I think it's clear that the women's probably should have main evented this one. I guess I'd give this one a 7 out of 10. It feels a bit generous, but the match itself was fun. Um, just again, the lack of surprises and predictable outcome. What was your rating for this one, KP?
I think, to the surprise of nobody listening and to yourself, I did give this one a fair bit lower. I went with a 5.5 out of 10. I think that the main reason that I can give it that is because the last 15 minutes or so was just a complete and utter snooze fest for me. Like, and I don't know if it's because I'm from the UK and I was staying up to watch it live, and it was very, very late at the time. But normally, when it's a really gripping main event, I'm able to stay awake so simply. It's never a problem for me. I was genuinely struggling to stay awake during that Cody and Punk exchange at the end. Like, I think I might need to go back and watch it when I'm a little bit more awake and a little bit more myself, and it's not like 4:30 in the morning or something like that. Everything was about 4:45 in the morning. So yeah, I don't know. I have a bad memory of those last 15 minutes because I was trying hard to stay awake, and the match wasn't helping me. But yeah, 5.5. I know it's low, but I just, R-Truth, I thought carried it. I got to be honest.
So yeah, granted it was only 10 p.m. for me. Um, I can imagine it being 4 a.m. Maybe that outcome and feeling like I stayed up, till 4 a.m. in the morning to watch a pay per view. Perhaps would have dimmed my mood a little bit. I will, I will give you credit where credit's due. Yeah, like I said, I didn't think it was bad, and I do agree. I feel like if you were to watch this over again, wouldn't be so bad. Having a full night's sleep and all that. But yeah, it's just there wasn't anything special, but there wasn't anything bad either. Um, there wasn't anything that made this is just the worst Rumble ever. Like I just wasn't. It just didn't. Coming across as a broken record. It was just it wasn't the main points of a Rumble is to have surprise entrance and maybe to have a lot of fun moments. I just felt like this one was lacking a bit. It didn't feel like a true Rumble, but again, it had its moments as far as uh, being entertaining. I didn't feel like it was a bad match and didn't have bad spots or anything. So yeah, maybe, like I said, maybe my 7 was a little too generous, but I don't dislike Cody quite as much as you do.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it is sort of like a little bit of tinted vision for me here, but I'm trying my hardest to take it for what it is. Like you say, you summed up quite well. It wasn't great, but it wasn't like bad. I think Lesnar's win a few years ago was a lot worse. That's what I will say. So, it's not the worst one in recent times, if that's a positive you can take from this.
Yeah, and I guess that's where we'll end it there as far as this particular match. Um, yeah, a bit of a predictable, maybe for some sour, maybe some not quite as sour, but a predictable ending. And we'll see where they take it this time. Hopefully this for most maybe finally see the end of the story. I don't know what the hell Cody's going to do after he finishes the story. Is he going to talk about how he finished the story for another year or two? Again, I don't dislike Cody, but that particular storyline is going to grow old, and I feel like is a lot of what he is as a wrestler as far as what makes him. So I'll be interested to see where they go with him as a character if he does in fact take the title. Um, from there. But yeah, overall, we'll go ahead and give this one an overall rating. 2024 Royal Rumble. I think I'll give it. I guess I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. I can actually go ahead and make it an 8. We'll make it an 8 out of 10. Um, Women's and the other two matches were really fun. Just the men's, I think, did drag it down a little bit, and maybe the order in which they presented them. Um, but yeah, overall, was a good pay per view. I walked away. Nothing could take away the feeling of seeing Bailey win. So I think overall, it's going to be remembered for that. Um, just wish they had kind of rearranged it differently. What was your rating for the overall event, KP?
Yeah, you've alluded to that a few times. I think you make a really good point with it. The order of the matches, and I think ending on Bailey winning would have been tremendous, and it would have been the most ideal situation. People going off on a high, everybody going off on a high. Sorry, I should say. I know a lot of people did enjoy Cody winning. I'm not. I know that I'm not like the only person to think that that's like the way it should have been. But yeah, I thought we were going to agree on a rating. Then you were very, very close to agreeing with me. I popped down a 7.5 out of 10, so still on the high ratings there. I think for a Rumble, there were a lot more good than bad, and that's something that we can definitely take from this. So, yeah, the pros outweigh the cons. As far as Cody's story comes, well, as far as it goes, I personally think that Roman will retain again. I think that he should retain again, and I'm probably going to get laughed at for that. But I'm I'm sitting on that fence until they freaking take it down from underneath me. So yeah, Bailey win was triumphant, fantastic. Following a couple of matches were decent, quite fun to watch, especially the fatal four way, and the finish to the US title match. Men's Rumble, a little bit of a letdown. R-Truth, you got to praise the man up as high as we can. Just kept it going in the middle of there. And yeah, a bit of a sour note to end on for me personally, but just because I don't like it doesn't mean that not everybody else will. So yeah, interesting to get people's opinions on this one. But yeah, 7.5 out of 10. It was a good show.
Yeah, so we very rarely differ on our opinions. I think even though our overall was slightly different, um, the men's Royal Rumble being the true outlier there, but for the most part, we're pretty close in our opinions on how we think, how we rate things. I think maybe your hatred for Cody coming into play a little bit. Uh, and I do agree that Sammy probably should have had a bit of revenge there. It did feel like it took away from his return a bit. Um, maybe they'll continue. I'm sure they will continue to go down that path over the next few weeks and months, maybe perhaps. Um, but yeah, so those were our reactions to 2024 Royal Rumble. I'm curious to hear everyone else's thoughts and comments below as far as what you liked, what you disliked. Are you happy to see Bailey win Royal Rumble for the first time? Or are you unhappy, as KP is, to see Cody Rhodes yet again win the Royal Rumble and continuing to try and finish his story? We'd love to hear from you below. But until next time, this has been The Push with Nick and KP. Thanks, guys.